Welcome back to the table, everyone. Today, Ryan and I have a new show for you.
Ooh.
We don't know what the show is called yet, but we're thinking crowd control.
I like it. I like
And we probably put that in the description and in the name of this video that you clicked on, so you probably already knew that.
It's a fun idea. There are so many crowdfunding campaigns that come out all the time. There's campaigns that are running right now. There are campaigns that are ending soon. There are campaigns that are starting soon. We want to kind of talk about all those things, kind of highlight the ones that we're either really excited about or really hopeful for, or that are just doing really well. And we're going to do some of the work for you guys so that you don't have to just keep scrolling through all the different crowdfunding sites.
I mean, a little bit of the work anyway. For lack of a better way of putting it, this is our Kickstarter show, but it's also our Gamefound show. It's also our BackerKit show.
It's our crowdfunding show. Period.
It's our crowdfunding show. So we're going to talk about typically a few games that are about to launch on one of those platforms. And then, like Ryan said, maybe something finished last week. Maybe they've got late pledges for it. Maybe we have a video for it. Maybe we don't. But we're going to talk about some of the things that we don't generally get paid to do in our previews.
That's stuff that we want to talk about, news that we want to bring you. So we should just jump right into it and talk, because this is big. One of the biggest, what I predict will be one of the biggest crowdfunding campaigns of the year is launching right around the corner, and that's Clank Legacy 2.
One of the biggest.
I predict this is going to be one of the biggest crowdfunding campaigns of this year.
Ooh,
I do.
We hadn't talked about this, but I'm thinking a new segment of this is for us to guess how much.
I couldn't tell you.
I think Clank Legacy 2 will be big. One of the biggest. I don't know if we're talking multi-millions of dollars.
I mean, we could be. This is the first Clank that's come to crowdfunding.
Yes,
right?
in fact, it's the first game that Direwolf has brought to crowdfunding of any kind. I don't know, and I had a chance to talk with the guys at Direwolf at Gamma very recently, and I did ask them, is this the beginning of maybe what we'll see in the future?
Yeah.
They wouldn't go on the record in any way, but they did kind of suggest, since Clank Legacy and this new one, Clank Legacy 2, is a bigger, higher price point game with a lot to it, it's going to lend itself more to that. And of course, I know they have some other games that are smaller, still large size, like Wild Tiled West. I believe that's going to be just a straight to retail release, things like that.
I think they will still do retail, but yeah, with Clank Legacy, I am in the middle of playing Clank Legacy 1 again for the second time, and there's so many components. So it makes sense, so many cards. This is not like your standard retail game. I mean, the first Clank Legacy was pretty expensive, but since there is no real metric for me to compare it to, I can't guess how much it's going to do. But I wouldn't be surprised if it did over $1 million. I honestly wouldn't be surprised.
That wouldn't shock me at all, but yeah, we'll see if it does multi-million.
We'll see. I mean, there's not going to be another Frosthaven campaign this year. Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
And it all comes down to what they have in their campaign, right? And got news for you. We don't know quite yet because it launches after right now.
We haven't gotten to see a preview, but that one should be launching soon.
I did have a chance. They did show some behind closed doors demos of it at Gamma.
Yeah.
But even that was incredibly limited because they don't want to give anything away, as they should with a campaign legacy game.
There were so many surprises in Clank 1 or Clank Legacy 1. You don't want to ruin that as well. I think like fans of Clank, just back this. Look at this page, decide if this is affordable, and it's kind of a semi-cooperative experience. You're going to be playing this as a legacy game with a bunch of people. So get your group together, everyone chips in $25, $30 or whatever, and there you go.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And then we do have another video on it, but some of the little details and nuggets of information they shared there was that there was going to be, I think, a little bit more PvP, but also some like boss fight encounters, which is really cool, which is a little nugget they were willing to share with us. The next game that is going to be launching is Astronauts Eternity.
Yes. So Astronauts Eternity is a sequel to the card game Astronauts, which is in itself kind of a sequel to the card game Aeon's End. So if you don't know what Astronauts is, it took Aeon's End, which is this great, award-winning, cooperative, deck-building boss battler, and they set it in space. So it's got this sci-fi premise, astronauts.
Yeah, they gave it kind of a Voltron coat of paint.
Yeah, kind of Voltron. But also they streamlined it. They made it a little bit more accessible for new players, and it's got a little bit of an easier learning curve going into the game. So it found an audience. It was very successful, and so they're coming back, like they did with Aeon's End, for more content. So more of the characters, more of the bosses, some new mechanics, some new cards, a ton of new things that are added into that familiar system.
And we will actually have more content on the channel for this one. We're going to be interviewing Sydney, one of the designers, and she's going to give us sort of all the information. We're going to break that down in another video. If it's not on the channel already, it will be very, very soon. The next one, the last one that is going to be launching that we're going to be talking about, this one is on Gamefound.
Yep.
And this is Hunters AD 1492. I don't think Christopher Columbus has anything to do with
No,
this.
I don't
It just
think so.
happens to be the same year. The
I
theme
didn't even think about that. 1492.
that's the first thing I thought of. Is 14. I mean, that's the only thing I
That's true.
associate with the date, 1492. But this one, the theme, I didn't know anything about. This is a Renaissance post-apocalyptic game. Did you know that?
Yeah, so it's kind of, I don't want to say sequel to Hunters AD 2114 because it actually takes place hundreds of years before that game. But it is a lot like that. That premise of that game is like the machines have taken over. There's an apocalypse. You're fighting against the machines in a cooperative campaign. This is like that, but with monsters. And with that, without that technology, this is more like that steampunky kind of.
Did that game
feel
use
to
the
it.
same system?
It's the same designer, same publisher,
okay.
same everything. And while I don't know, like I haven't played this new game, the premise of how the game plays is pretty much the same. I mean, in that it's a cooperative scenario-based game where you're playing through a campaign with a lot of different branching narratives, where the choices that you make actually do impact the direction you go through the story and ultimately impact your ending.
Yeah,
Which is what I like to see that.
like a lot of recent games, like the Gloomhavens, the Oathsworns of the world. This is that. I would say it's in that genre of game for sure. It's very open world. You're going to be exploring.
Yeah.
You're going to be going into sort of more of a micro setting where you're going to be encountering monsters. And that's driven a lot by card play. I think on your turn, you're going to be taking some actions that are basic actions, but you could also instead play cards that let you do unique things, and those are things you're going to be purchasing with XP.
Yeah.
And one other cool thing about this game that I didn't know, so the player boards are like these modular things where there's a one half that connects to the other half, and the one half where your inventory is, it's very reminiscent of like a Diablo-ish grid where you're piecing things in, and they had like, you could put a sword in, but then if you get an enhancement for the sword, you actually slot that in connected to that sword. So if you put like oil or whatnot on the sword, and the crafting in the game is crazy. Like there's this wagon where you can go back to and craft, and the wagon can be upgraded that allows you to craft even more things. Like I've not seen that level of crafting in a lot of games.
No, I mean, it looks really cool, and it very, very much fits with the theme of the game of like putting together these inventions and using this kind of limited technology you have to fight these monsters. It's going to be very cool.
Is that, I know that's more your type of game than mine, but.
For sure, I'm very excited about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really cool.
Yeah, and like I said, that one is on Gamefound. The first two, I believe, are
Both
on
on
Kickstarter
Kickstarter.
launches, and those launch, if you're watching this, like the day it drops, they're launching tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you're watching it this week, they launch
And they
this
probably
week.
already launched. And speaking of, so those are the three games that we want to focus on that are coming soon. But there's a couple that are live right now that are
Or
that
just
caught
finished.
or maybe even just finished that caught our attention. And I want to talk about one of those, and that's Endeavor Deep Sea. This is a sequel to Endeavor Age of Sail, which was a game about sailing ships during like the pirate era. This is a game about exploring the oceans in submarines, and not just necessarily exploring the oceans, but about trying to save the oceans, research the oceans, preserve the life of the oceans, which I think is a very cool theme for this game to have. It obviously is very popular. It's got over 2,000 backers right now. It's already funded over $100,000 just on its first day or two. And it's really, to me, what's really cool is they're focusing on sustainability. And I know that's a word that gets thrown out a lot, but this is very cool. The game trays that are in the deluxe edition, which they are full game trays they're using here, they're not made with plastic though. They're this material called bagasse.
Will they dissolve with a drop of water?
They won't. Well,
No,
they've been used. This material's been used for like to make like the styrofoam you get in like to-go boxes
Really?
at like restaurants and stuff. It's an interesting material.
And it's more sustainable?
It's way more sustainable than plastic. It's biodegradable.
Okay.
And it's a cool thing. And I think that if this works really well, if this game delivers and people notice that there's not a significant difference in the quality of their game trays, this is probably the material that I think publishers should be looking at for the future.
If
Right,
those things are accurate.
right. This is an interesting experiment. I think this is the first time I've seen something like this done in a crowdfunding campaign, or really with game trays. Period, using something that's not plastic.
I mean, for trays anyway. I mean, lots of people are trying to do that sort of thing.
Well, yeah, right. But this is actually these are officially molded game trays with this too, and The cool thing is the retail game is like $60 and the deluxe is $69. So like,
is there a lot of?
there's a lot of like all the game trays come with the deluxe or some deluxe components and things like that too. So like
the difference is just that much.
Yeah, so get the deluxe.
I guess so. I mean, if
There's
you're
really-
going to
there's
get
no
it, why
reason you
wouldn't
wouldn't
at
wanna
that
do that.
price point? The next one we want to talk about is Weirdwood Manor. This is one we also covered recently on the channel, and I was hoping this was going to do well, and it's done pretty well so far.
Yeah, I would say so.
It's got a ways left. It's going to be closing, I think, May 11th, but it's already over 200,000. I think they have 2,800 backers, which is
great.
No small feat for sure. This thing is a cooperative survival game where there's a monster. Like I said, we have content, so go check that out. But the one thing I wanted to mention here are the deluxe, like you were saying with Endeavor, deluxe and the standard edition. Now the difference is a little bit more here than just $9. I think the standard edition is $60, and it's still pretty nice.
Yeah.
The deluxe edition comes with, I think it looked like the main thing you got was one, the standees are sort of acrylic.
Oh yeah, those looked cool on the page.
That's what we had with our prototype, which are really, really nice. And then also all the bits are deluxe. So it's effectively the bits and the standees. And the bits, I'll tell you, the scarabs alone in that game, the deluxe versions were really, really cool. And I think that's 85 versus 60 on the standard edition.
That makes sense. There's a lot of detail in those upgraded components for that game. And they really like, you know who you are. You know if you're the kind of person that needs to have the deluxe edition. Yeah, I'm that person.
It's 25.
That needs to have it.
It's relatively speaking, is about $25 for the deluxe bits, which is as much, maybe even a little less than you'd pay if you're just buying deluxe bits for a game.
To deluxify something, right.
And these are really, really nice. And the game has a lot of cool things going on already with the way the board works and everything like that. So if you're interested in a cooperative game that has quite a bit more going on than most, because it has a lot of sort of Euro-y mechanics, check out Weirdwood Manor when you can. And then the last one I wanted to talk about, and this one actually wrapped up last week, was Santorini. Now, this is Santorini. This has a bunch of things. The Pantheon edition, which is sort of a new deluxe version of the game that has like some upgraded components, some trays, bigger box, new gods, all that sort of stuff. They have the Riddle of the Sphinx, which is sort of a separate thing you could get. You can get all by itself. They have options in this one.
That Riddle of the Sphinx is cool.
Yeah, the Riddle of the Sphinx is a co-op sort of campaign. I think 20 plus scenarios that you go through. Yeah. We've had a chance to play a few of those. A very interesting way to get Santorini, quote unquote, to the table, because it uses a lot of the same mechanics, but in a very puzzly co-op sort of way. And then finally, they do have an upgrade kit. And I was taking a look at the upgrade kit. The upgrade kit doesn't look like, if you bought all of this, the all-in basically, and you never had a copy of Santorini versus getting the upgrade kit, I do think the biggest difference there is the plastics. So you'll keep your old plastics, but the new version, the plastics have been changed, I think, a little bit. There's a little more detail on the buildings and things like that. So that is one difference. But it looks like you'd get everything you'd want to sort of everything you'd want to deluxify your current Santorini. Although I probably would want the all-in anyway.
I do.
Just because
the new tile, everything looks so nice with the new version.
And if you own Santorini, you probably paid $20 for it.
Yeah,
like it was not an expensive game. It was like $20 to $30.
It makes a great giveaway or a gift.
But yeah, that just wrapped up, and they did well.
Well, yeah, and if you have some FOMO right now, I'm sure they'll have some late pledge systems.
I'm sure they do. So but they're not hurting. They're not hurting without your pledge, but go check it out because they did at least over 1.2 by the time we were recording this. Over 1.2 million. I'm guessing they will cross 1.3 million by the time it is done. Like I said, we recorded this a little earlier. But yeah, check out Santorini and
I want to mention one more. Jeremy Howard would get upset if I didn't mention this. This is Guards of Atlantis 2. If you've watched the channel, you've seen Jeremy talk about how much he loves this game. You've seen the hunt that he went on to get this game because it was very hard to find for a while because the popularity blew up. So it's back on Gamefound right now to get a reprint of Guards of Atlantis 2. It's a cool MOBA game. Just watch any of our videos that Jeremy's been on if you want to hear more about it.
There's a number of videos where Jeremy has talked about this, particularly chit chats. So if you're interested in learning about the game, do that. Or, like Ryan said, go to their campaign. Anyway, that was our first episode of
Crowdfunding control.
Crowd
control?
Crowd. I think crowd control. You know what? Comment down below what you think. Give some name ideas. I'm leaning towards crowd control.
I do like it. I like it.
We don't want to get too cute with it, but let us know what you think down below. Ask any questions you want. We'll try to answer whatever we can. We'll help you do the research on all of those campaigns. And until next time, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.